Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
I've got my top 3 reasons why the Brewers will advance the World Series and my 3 reasons why they won't. But I want to ask you, before I get to mine, give you a few minutes yet. You don't have to do 3. You can give me a couple or just one. Give me a reason why they will advance the World Series and give me a reason why they won't advance to the World Series. I think one of the biggest questions for this Brewers team as we get set for the postseason here, coming up in a couple days, and we could point to a lot of different questions here, but one intriguing question I think is going to be, and we've talked about it off and on, but where does a guy like Jacob Misiorowski fit? Where does he fit? And it's a piece, again, by Adam McCulvey from Brewers.com. Says, where does Miz fit in the Brewers' NLDS plans? And he noted in there that based on conversations with Brewers officials and coaches, Misiorowski does fit somewhere, and they all expect him to be included on the NLDS roster when it is released on Saturday morning. And again, I mean, you talk about a whirlwind of a season for Jacob Misiorowski. The fact that right now we're talking about, is he actually going to be on the roster? And you rewind it back to July. And I remember we did a poll question on this. It was after his second start, I think. We put out there, who do you want on the mound right away? If you had a must-win game between these two pitchers, who do you want on the mound? It wasn't even close. It was like 85 to 90% of the voters said Misiorowski over Freddie Peralta. Guarantee, we ask that now, it is completely on the other side. It is just, and I think Misiorowski is a guy right now that he needs the offseason. And I think it's just been a lot. I think it's been a lot put on his shoulders. It has been a whirlwind. You begin the year in AAA, and you had a lot of expectations and such already at AAA. We knew. I think we had a pretty good idea. We were going to see Misiorowski at some point this year. I mean, last year at the back end, there was some talk, could he be called up and maybe be a bullpen option come postseason time. That didn't happen. So we, I think, had a really good idea that, okay, we're probably going to see Misiorowski at some point. We did. And he came in just hot, right? Absolutely hot. And setting the world on fire, gets the All-Star game. He gets talks for Rookie of the Year, and things kind of, if that was the peak, things kind of went downhill after that. Right? Things went down the hill after that. And this has just been I think just a whirlwind of a season for Misiorowski where the guy just needs the All-Star break now. Or not the All-Star break, the offseason, excuse me. He just needs this offseason to maybe clear his head and get away from baseball here a little bit. Now, he needs to still obviously be a contributor for this ball club for the postseason and such. I guess where I'm getting at is I'm not ready, or I hope nobody is sitting there saying, shut the door on Misiorowski and we were all, fooled or anything like that from what we saw at the beginning of the year. Kind of the same stuff with people talking about the Packers here a little bit. Oh, yep, crowned them too early. They stink. They're not that good. I don't know if there's a lot of Brewers fans thinking that, but when we get to the postseason here coming up on Saturday, I think it is going to be kind of a question mark. Where does the Miz fit in this? Like, how much confidence do you have? How much confidence does Pat Murphy have in putting Mizorowski in certain situations in these games? Is he going to be a guy that they're just going to throw in there when you need somebody to eat up innings, whether it's because you have a huge lead or maybe because you're down by a lot? I mean, can you put him in a tight situation with runners in scoring position and maybe one out or nobody out? I mean, we saw that test against the Reds, and it didn't go that great for the Miz. Like, what situation do you put him in? I mean, because in the piece from Adam McAuliffe, too, as Jim Henderson noted, assistant a pitching coach, 103 checks, 103 miles per hour checks. That's a hard pitch to hit at times. Not many people can do that. If you were watching the Padres and Cubs game yesterday and you saw Miller doing like 104, I was like, geez. But the thing is with the Miz, he's got to hit on that location. He's got to have the control with it. And for Mizorowski, I think he's got the good mindset. Wherever they put me. Wherever they put me. And that's the mind. I mean, he knows it. If he would have continued in the second half after the All-Star break to pitch at an incredibly high level, he's probably in the rotation, or at least he's in the conversation of that. But right now, he's that guy that's going to be coming out of the bullpen. It's just the question now is, what situations can you put him in there? Or maybe better yet, where's the confidence level when you make that call to the pen for Mizorowski? Because I'll be honest, when that time comes, depending on the situation, if it's a tight game where there's runners on in that, I'm going to be nervous. But I'm glad that, you go back to last weekend, Murphy put him in that situation where bases were loaded. Give him an experience coming out of the bullpen in a situation like that. And I thought Murphy had, the right comment when asked about it after the Reds game when he said, quote, "Some people say, why would you do that? Put him in a clean inning. Give him a soft landing. But what part of the playoffs is going to be a soft landing? Even if it's a clean inning, right? There's no soft landing. So I made the decision to move that way." It didn't work, but experience. Experience for Mizorowski, but also, all right, Murphy kind of saw it. Will it factor into some decision-making when it comes to the postseason? Possibly. But it's going to be interesting to see where they decide to use Mizorowski once things get going here. I've got my 3 reasons. So I'll start off. I'll start with the negatives first, because most of us, unless you're a Cubs or Twins fan, and just if you're a Twins fan, you really hate the Brewers, or you're a Cardinals fan too. I'll start with the reasons why they won't go in the World Series. Again, these are just my opinions, but everybody says it, so it's number one. They don't hit home runs. They hit home runs, but maybe not to the level that people kind of expect playoff teams, World Series contenders, and such to do. Do they hit home runs to the level of the Dodgers or the Phillies? No, they don't. Okay? So that's the debate. That's the conversation, is teams in the postseason got to be able to hit home runs, swing of the bats. One swing of the bat can change things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if that is truthfully the case, and that's going to hold a team back from getting to the World Series this year, then okay, we got to put it on there. They don't hit home runs at the pace of like a Dodgers or a Phillies team. They don't. Number 2 for me, I'm going to go now. After I say it, don't freak out. Let me explain here a little bit. But number 2, I'm going to go starting pitching. Based off of, I'm going to assume we're not going to see Brandon Woodruff in the postseason. Okay? And I look at starting pitching. Freddie Peralta's had a great season. Very great season. What's the knock on him? It's, can he go deep into games? So I'm assuming we are going to have, after a Freddie Peralta game, bullpen's going to be used after that. Now, the benefit of that, though, is they do have arms in that bullpen that are former starters, so they can eat up a couple of innings. You can keep them out there for a couple innings if they're wheeling and dealing. So that does help alleviate that. But Quinn Priester, for as good as he has been all season long, first postseason experience, a little bit unknown. Quintana, veteran, he's been there. So you got that. But I don't think I'm off in saying I'd feel a lot better if Brandon Woodruff was also a part of this rotation. I think it's set up with the off days and such where maybe the Brewers could get by with using only 3, and then if they have to do a 4-starter, they could kind of do a bullpen start there. But I'm still a little nervous. Okay? Maybe that's just me, but I'm a little nervous. It's a big unknown with Quinn Priester coming in. Postseason now. It's a different animal. Inexperience there. Don't hate me. That's just me. Freddie Peralta, obviously he's been there. He's pitched in these moments. Quintana, he's pitched in these moments too. But I'm just a little... I'd feel, if Brandon Woodruff was a part of it, I'd feel way, way better. Feel like really confident in this thing. But, hey, if Priester pitches like he did in the regular season and, he's got nerves of steel and such, then it completely switches into a pot. It's just an unknown for me. The lack of experience in the postseason, it's just an unknown for me. And then I think, the other part, it's tough matchups. Really tough matchups. You look at, we know it's going to be Padres or Cubs. And the Brewers in the regular season lost both of those series. So they have losing records against both the Padres and the Cubs. And even if the Brewers had won those series, it would be a tough matchup. And then if they get by that, it's going to be the Phillies or the Dodgers. And yes, the Brewers swept the Dodgers this year, which is remarkable. But it's still going to be a tough matchup. Let's not kid ourselves. Okay? It's still going to be a very tough matchup. Phillies, they swept them earlier in the year. Phillies won the series at the back end of the year. Brewers had the tiebreaker and such. It's still going to be an incredibly tough matchup. There's no easy games. There's no easy matchups for the Crew heading into this postseason. Very tough matchups. Very tough games. All right, enough with the negative stuff. Let's go with the positives. What are the 3 reasons, in my opinion, that the Brewers will get to the World Series? Defense. They play fantastic defense. They've got speed on defense. Terang, Ortiz, Durbin, Perkins. Hell, even Jackson Churio has made some great plays in the outfield. The golden boy, Sal Frelick. Isaac Collins was being mentioned as a potential Gold Glove candidate in left field, depending on how the starting situation is going to look like. I mean, we know they're Contreras. They've got some solid defense. Run prevention. They're one of the best, if not the best, in the entire Major League system, or Major Leagues. Defense, defense, defense. Defense wins championships, right? That can't just be a football term, right? It sure looks like, for the most part, too. I was talking about the bullpen a little bit earlier. Trevor McGill's back. You're going to get him in the bullpen. Nick Mears is there. You've got bullpen arms. I like the setup of the bullpen for the Brewers. I think that's going to pay big dividends for this Brewers team once we get into the postseason. And they are going to have to be ready to be big-time contributors. The only big question I have about the bullpen is Mizorowski. He's got the stuff, but it's just going to be a question of, is he going to be on that day when he's pitching? But you look at the other options coming out of the bullpen. I mean, Uribe, McGill, you got Aaron Ashby, Jared Koenig, D.L. Hall is back, Nick Mears, Chad Patrick. I mean, those are solid options coming out of the pen. And I feel like if the Brewers have a lead and they hand it off to their pen, they're going to be in a decent spot. They're going to be in a good situation. I think you should feel confident. So I like that the fact that the pen is healthy. They got the guys back, and it's a unique bullpen because you have that mixture of guys like an Aaron Ashby or a D.L. Hall or even a Mizorowski who can give you a couple innings. Chad Patrick can give you a couple innings. And then you got your lockdowns like a Trevor and an Abner. Nick Mears has pitched in some high leverage situations too. And then finally, the negative is they don't hit home runs. But the fact is the Brewers do score runs. They score runs. They just don't do it in a way that a lot of people like. They don't do it in a fancy way. They don't do it with the long ball. But they still score runs. Right? I mean, they still score runs. So even though they don't do it with a ton of home runs. Remember a few years ago it was like the Brewers were hitting home runs, but that's all the only way they could score, and that was kind of a knock on them. But this year it's like the complete opposite. In fact, when you look at total runs scored, the Brewers have the third most in Major League Baseball. Only behind the Yankees and the Dodgers. Third most runs scored. Only 3 teams in Major League Baseball have scored over 800 runs. Brewers, Dodgers, Yankees. So I feel like there is a narrative that is being thrown out there. Maybe it's from national peeps or people who don't necessarily follow the Brewers. But there is, I feel like, this narrative out there that they don't score runs. They can't score runs. No, they can score runs. They just don't do it by the home run ball all the time. And I feel like there's that narrative that if a team doesn't hit home runs at a pace of a Yankees or a Dodgers, these casual observers or outsiders just feel like, oh, that team must not score a lot. No, Brewers do. They just do it in a way that you probably don't like, or it goes against the metrics or analytics side of things. I mean, if you want to look at batting average too, depending on if you're still a believer in that, third best batting average in Major League Baseball, Brewers. Blue Jays are at 265, Phillies are at 258, actually tied for second, and then the Brewers are at 258. Yeah, and they're 11th in OPS because, well, that's on base and then slugging. What brings down their OPS is their slugging. The Brewers don't have one of the best slugging percentages in the league. They're 403. The leaders, again, Yankees at a 455, Dodgers at a 441. But on base percentage, Brewers, 332, second best. Second best, only behind the Blue Jays at a 333. They get on base and they can score runs. They put pressure on defenses. And they're able to manufacture those. Second most stolen bases in Major League Baseball, 164. The Rays, 194. Whew, dominated that one. So, those are my reasons why they will and why they won't win the World Series.